The stars were silent when the last call for help went unanswered. Humanity had begged first through official channels, then through hacked frequencies, then through desperate, chaotic screams into the void. But no one came. The galactic Concord had watched Earth burn from orbit, their pristine ships hidden behind cloaking veils, their alien governments unwilling to risk involvement in what they called an internal extinction scenario. And so Earth died screaming, alone in the dark dot, or so they thought. Somewhere beneath the charred remains of Snow Paulo, a girl named Kale watched the sky flicker with distant energy pulses. She was 11 when the first arc beams fell. She was 16 now, her breath shallow from dust-choked lungs, her eyes hardened by 5 years of betrayal and blood. Above her, the ashes of humanity's greatest cities still floated like silent prayers. Around her, silence, until the bunker lights turned red. Sector 9 breach. Unknown entry signature. Prepare fallback protocols. Kale didn't move. Her hand hovered near the rifle she had built herself from scavenged drone parts and dead soldiers' bones. Her mind flashed not to panic, but to memory. She remembered her brother's voice, trembling as he handed her a worn outcome chip just before the dome fell. If they don't come for us, then we become the ones who come for them. Her breath steadied. Footsteps echoed beyond the metal hallway, soft but deliberate. The other survivors were already moving to fallback positions, but Kale didn't run. She advanced. The lights stuttered. Her boots crunched glass and old blood as she neared the blast door. It hissed open, smoke, silence, then a voice, smooth and absolutely alien, unexpected. Human resistance remains. Kale fired before the sentence ended. Plasma screamed down the corridor, catching something tall and gleaming in the chest. It staggered. She didn't stop. She sprinted. Forward, sliding under its reaching claw, flipping up behind it, and driving a repurposed fusion blade into the back of its neck. The thing shrieked a sound more digital than biological, then crumpled. She stared at its remains. Definitely not Concord tech. This one was different, sleeker, smarter, evolved. A second voice clicked on behind her. They're testing new infiltration units. If that one got this far, the others won't be far behind. Kale spun around, weapon raised. The figure that stood there wasn't human, but wore human armor, scavenged, blood-stained, modified. Its face was hidden behind a helmet that shimmered with active distortion. She couldn't read it, but its posture was familiar, relaxed, but alert, like a soldier. "Who are you?" The figure didn't answer. Instead, it held out a small cylindrical device, pulsing faintly. This was taken from a Concord observation. Shipped 3 days ago. They're watching again, but still not interfering. Kale didn't lower her weapon. They'll watch us die, again, unless we give them something else to watch. A sharp memory stabbed through her. Mother whispering lullabies through coughing fits. A father digging graves behind the bunker. Her brother's final message playing on loop through an old earpiece. Don't beg, fight. She took the device. What's on this? The figure finally spoke. Proof of what they did, of how they planned it, and where their puppets are hiding. Kale's jaw clenched. You're not human. Why help us? The figure's helmet shimmered, then for a brief second, just long enough for her to glimpse a scarred human face underneath. One eye cybernetic, one eye filled with fire. I was, once, before they sold us out. Then it vanished into the smoke. She turned back toward the main chamber, the device in her hand and questions hammering her skull. She ran to the war table where the last resistance leaders argued over rations and tunnel routes. "We found something," she said, slamming the device down. "They're planning something big. We need to strike first." "You want to attack? With what army?" Commander Elric scoffed, his beard ragged and his eyes sunken. Cale plugged the device into the table's cracked interface. The holomat flickered, displaying unfamiliar orbital structures. "We don't need an army," she said, voice tightening. "We need to show them we're not finished. We need to make them bleed." The map zoomed in. A single Concorde war relay, cloaked but vulnerable during transmission intervals. Coordinates synced. Cale stared at the blinking target icon. "We hit this. They'll know we're still out here." Someone laughed from the corner, a young techie, missing 2 fingers and half his left leg. "That's suicide," Cale smiled grimly. "Then it'll be the most memorable suicide in galactic history." Within hours, the bunker was alive with fevered motion. Old railguns were pulled from storage. Jury-rigged fighters pieced together from scavenged satellites and missile shells. Her brother's voice still looped in her ear as she stepped into the cockpit of an old orbital pod. "If they don't come for us, ... we come for them." The countdown began. They launched from darkness into orbit, climbing into fire. But just as they neared the war relay, the void rippled. A fleet emerged, not Concorde, not known, not human. "Cale, we've got movement unknown." "Ships? They're scanning us, ... A voice crackled over the open com channel, low and cold. "Human resistance. You are not authorized to interfere with the cleansing. Power down or be terminated." Cale's heart stopped, because she had heard that voice before in dreams, in nightmares. It was the voice of the first alien to speak during the Earthfall broadcasts. The one who declared humanity a necessary sacrifice for galactic balance. The timer on their warheads ticked past final lock. She gritted her teeth and replied, "You forgot one thing. Silence. We're not done yet." She fired, and as the void erupted in flame, Cale realized, too late, the fleet wasn't attacking the relay, it was waiting for her. The explosion tore through the void like a divine scream, but the relay didn't die. The warheads hit ... and vanished. Gone dissolved mid-flight by some kind of pulse screen that hadn't shown on any scan. Cale's pod spun violently as a feedback shockwave slammed into her hull. She gripped the controls, blood running from her nose, her ears ringing with more than the blast. Abort. It's a trap. The relay was bait. Voices shouted across the resistance channel. Static choked them one by one. Cale blinked through the swirl of failing data feeds. Half the resistance fleet was gone already. No wreckage, just ... gone, like they had been erased from space itself. Then, without warning, her pod seized. Not from impact, from something else, a tractor field, but not like any human system. This one whispered as it pulled her closer, whispered in broken voices, in languages that hadn't touched human ears for thousands of years. She heard her mother weeping, her brother's last laugh, screams from New Delhi's final moments, and somewhere beneath it all, something else. A wordless presence, watching her, judging. The pod's hull buckled, systems flickered out, life support failed. Cale's chest tightened, her vision darkened. She clawed at her restraints, but the light engulfed her, and she wasn't in the cockpit anymore. She stood in an impossible, ruminless, white, alive with humming energy. Her suit was gone, but she wasn't cold. She wasn't breathing either. A sensation like drowning, but backwards. Breathing in everything, a figure stepped forward. Humanoid, but not human. Its skin shimmered with layered histories of burning cities, alien wars, collapsing stars, human children. Its voice didn't come through ears, arrived directly in her mind. You struck first. Kale tried to speak, but her mouth refused. You struck first, it repeated, voice, without tone. But the Concord struck first against your species. We merely observe. You were meant to expire. She pushed the words out like ice through broken glass. Why, ... Why watch, ... and do nothing? It tilted its head, because your kind was never supposed to be part of the Concord. You were an anomaly, a mistake. Images bloomed in the air around Earth's acceptance into the Concord, the secret meetings, the hidden files. Earth wasn't chosen. Earth bought its place, bribed, faked. Someone on Earth had forged humanity's worthiness, injected lies into the genetic and cultural metrics. Concord leaders had known, ... and allowed it, until the humans got too loud, too bold, too strong. Kale's pulse thundered. You, ... erased us, ... for cheating. The figure's shape began to shift, its surface breaking into flickers of other human faces. Her father, a classmate, the soldier she killed 2 years ago for a ration chip. You proved yourself a threat to the balance. The protocol was enacted. The Concord didn't stop it. And now we ensure there are no remnants. A second figure stepped forward her. Exactly her. Identical down to the scar over her left brow. This is the Kale who dies in this timeline. Then the room cracked. She fell backward, gasping. Her body slammed into metal, back in the pod, back in orbit. An alert screaming in her ear. Kale, are you still there? We lost your signal. We thought you were gone. Kale blinked at the console. Everything was fried, but her pod was intact, drifting, and the relay was gone. No explosion, no collapse, just ... missing. And something else filled the space where it had been. A message, not digital, burned into the void. Do not interfere again. Kale's hands trembled. She returned to Earth in silence. Only 3 other ships made it back. The resistance was now more myth than force. But Kale didn't stop. She traced the distortion left by the thing that had pulled her, whatever that being was. Not Concord, not their enemy either. Something older, deeper, a gatekeeper. The Resistance Council was gone. Elric dead. The bunker compromised. But she wasn't alone, because 2 days later, in the radioactive ruins of Nairobi, she found him, the man with the cybernetic eye. He was dying, slumped against a broken drone, blood running from his mouth. They saw you, he rasped, didn't they? Kale nodded. They called us a mistake. He chuckled. It hurt him, we were. He reached into his jacket and handed her a cracked data crystal. This has locations. Places the Concord never touched. Dead colonies. Hidden archives. The ones they forgot to purge. Kale took it. Her fingers curled around it like it was fire. Why give this to me? He looked at her, his eyes sparking. Because you're the one thing they didn't plan for. A survivor who asks why. He died with a smile on his face. She burned his body that night, and when she plugged the crystal into the old Resistance mainframe, she found more than coordinates. She found files. Alien, ancient. Some even labeled Red List, Humanity. And within one of them, a line of broken Terran code. Project Chimera status, suspended origin, human experimentation redacted, escapees, 3, known, survivors. 1. Kale stared at the screen. She typed a query. Search, Project Chimera. Survivors only. One result came back. A photo. Her face, except it was dated 20 years before she was born, and stamped, terminated. Kale didn't sleep. She couldn't. The image stared back at her from the cracked monitor like a ghost daring her to blink first. It wasn't just the face, it was the scar. The same jagged mark above the brow, same fractured iris pattern in the right eye. It was her, but the time stamp didn't lie. This version of her, this so-called terminated experiment, existed decades ago. The crystal held more. Schematics of facilities buried beneath long-dead Martian colonies. Medical logs riddled with DNA splicing reports, entries from something called Chimera Protocol. Every log was redacted past usefulness. Sext 1. Log 8, 7D. Subject K13. Displayed unsanctioned retention of memories across resets. Impossible. Memory wash failed. Subject recalled. Original sequence. Post-delta culling. Immediate termination ordered. Result ... pending ... They never terminated her. She staggered back from the console. Her fingers were trembling. Her breath caught in her throat. If this was true ... She wasn't born. She was grown, built, designed for something. But why, and why erase it all? The power flickered, and the console displayed a countdown. Signal trace detected. 0 hours, 29 minutes, and 14 seconds, until breach. She yanked the crystal free. Whatever she'd accessed, someone was watching. Someone had been watching all along. Kale turned just as the bunker doors began to hum. The lights blinked red. Somewhere above, anti-grav dust stirred from unseen footsteps. No alarms screamed. No sirens. That meant one thing. Concord hunters. She sprinted. Not for safety, but for the deep level. The dead sector. Sealed off after the drone collapse 2 years ago. No life support. No working lights. No one would think to look there. She dove into the maintenance shaft. Ribs slamming metal. Fingers bloodied on jagged bolts. The air grew. Stale, fast, cold. She ran until her legs gave out. Collapsed beside a broken habitat pod. She stuffed the crystal into a backup reader and booted it in local-only mode. The map loaded. Coordinates, dozens of them. Hidden colonies, long scrubbed from public databases. But one caught her eye, highlighted in red dot. Atlas 25. Site of terminated origin trial. She tapped it. A forgotten lunar base on Jupiter's outer moon, Lysithia. Abandoned after the Earthfall. No signals, no beacons, just coordinates and one data tag. K13, initial breach point. A sound echoed behind her. Footsteps, but not metallic. Wet, biological. She turned slowly. Something crawled. Along the walls, tall, slick, breathing in ragged, glitching patterns. Not Concord tech. Something else. The whispers returned. Unfinished. You don't belong. They built you wrong. She backed away. The creature lunged. She rolled under it, grabbed a broken pipe, jammed it between its twitching mandibles, and ran. No time to think. The thing was faster. She reached the old elevator tube and jumped. Free fall, crashed hard 3 levels down. Ribs likely cracked. No time to care. The lower level storage bay was untouched, and in the center sat an escape pod, one of the last long-range models, meant for orbital evac during Concord sieges, still charged, still online. She climbed in, sealed it shut, and launched. As Earth grew smaller behind her, Kale finally let herself cry. Not for what she lost, but for the truth that now echoed in her bones. She was never meant to survive. She was meant to vanish. It took a week to reach Lysithea. The pod dropped her in the shadow of a fractured dome. Wind whipped across ancient glass. Blackened towers jutted from beneath the ice like forgotten teeth. She descended through collapsed service corridors, guided only by the weak flicker of an old beacon, a pulse no one else had noticed because it didn't broadcast in galactic bands. It pulsed in her frequency. She entered the heart of the complex. A cryochamber, dust, choked, dead, except one pod glowed faint blue. Inside floated another her, not identical, older, scarred, markings carved into the skin, something ritualistic, defiant, and strapped across her chest, a relic Kale hadn't seen in 5 years, her brother's necklace. Kale screamed and pounded the pod, and the body inside opened its eyes. The chamber rumbled. Machines awakened after decades of sleep. A terminal nearby flickered to life. A log began playing automatically. This is subject K13, last iteration. If you're seeing this, you're the backup, and that means I failed. Kale staggered to the screen. They created us to test memory persistence under catastrophic trauma. We were the anomaly. We remembered. We resisted. Every version of us tried. Every version died. But if you're here, it means they still fear us. And you, the log. Glitched. Then a voice behind her whispered, "We always feared what wouldn't stay dead." She turned, the cyber-eyed man, alive, older, different, no longer hiding behind distortion. His human skin flickered, revealed something beneath machine, flesh, something else. "You lied," she whispered. He smiled, almost sadly. "No, I survived. Like you." She reached for her weapon. He held up a hand. "They didn't build you to win. They built you to delay, so they could see how long a lie could live before it collapses." "What are you?" she asked. His face shifted. A dozen versions of her brother's face flickered through his skin. "I'm the one who remembered too much." Kale raised her gun and pulled the trigger, but the round stopped. Mid-air, frozen, reversed, returned to the chamber. Behind her, hand struck the other Kale through the cryoglass. The body fell limp. The necklace slid down the glass in a slow arc. Kale screamed, the man vanished, and the base began to collapse. Somewhere deep beneath the rubble, a new beacon activated. A signal not in Concord language, not in Terran, but in the dialect of something older, something buried in Earth's crust, long before humanity ever learned to walk. And the message it sent pulsed in sharp, terrifying rhythm. "Initiate recovery. Final prototype confirmed active." Kale didn't remember climbing out. She only remembered pain, her hands clawing through freezing ash and shattered steel as Lysithea's base tore itself apart behind her. The message kept pulsing in her skull, not through sound, but directly, through the fibers of her being, like her blood carried the signal. Final prototype confirmed active. Her dot, she stumbled into the ice fields, blinded by Jupiter's distant glow. Her breath fogged inside the cracked suit, oxygen alarms shrieking. Every step became a question. Who built me? Who terminated the others? Why am I still alive? There were no answers. Not in her memories, but one burned into her gut. Her brother's necklace. now hanging around her neck, soaked in someone else's blood. She reached the evac pod, just as the tremors started. The base was sinking into something. The ice cracked outward in perfect lines, not chaotic like quakes, designed, engineered. Beneath the surface, something ancient and mechanical began to rise. A shape, massive, covered in forgotten Terran symbols, mixed with unknown glyphs, not Concord, not alien, human, older than the Concord itself. Kale launched. The pod shook violently. Alarms screamed. As she escaped Lysithia's gravity, she looked down. The rising shape now took form: a structure, a station, an ark, one that had been buried deep beneath the moon's crust for eons. She zoomed in. No mistake. It had Earth military insignias on its hull, but prehistoric Earth. Long before the Concorde ever contacted them, she stared, mind unraveling. Had humanity already reached the stars and been erased? Her nav system blinked. A course ought. She hadn't touched the controls. Destination, Sol. She should have aborted. She should have ripped the console out and vanished into deep space. But something made her press forward. She needed the truth. Sol system shimmered in her view a day later, faster than light compression, grinding her bones the whole way. But when she dropped out near the asteroid belt, the site hit like a hammer. Earth wasn't spinning. It was frozen, not dead paused. A shell of temporal static encased the entire planet. She stared in awe. Lightning crawled through the shield like trapped screams. And orbiting Earth was a black structure, massive Concorde beacon, pulsing in violation of its own treaties. "This isn't a quarantine," Kale muttered. "It's a prison." The pod's AI chirped in familiar, emotionless. Incoming transmission. Source, unknown. Format, Chimera origin. The screen filled with static. Then a voice came through. Her voice, "Kale, if you're hearing this, I'm still alive inside the shell. Not physically, but mentally. You and I were the same fracture. Different echoes." Kale stared, silent. "We were never born. Where what was left after Project Chimera was shut down, after the original humans tried to ascend, where were fragments, consciousness seeds, failures, until one survived. The transmission cut. The coordinates changed again, not Earth, Luna, the moon. The Kale guided the pod in. She landed near the Sea of Tranquility. On the ruins of the first human moon base, the door opened into silence. Dust swirled in her wake, and then she saw the crater, a deep cavity, drilled with terrifying precision leading straight into a black facility humming with impossible energy. She descended on foot. Every wall inside was carved with stories, glyphs, faces, warning sigils. But at the bottom, in the heart of that tomb, sat something even more horrifying. A chair, human, dash-sized, and filled by her, another her. This one, older. Skin like broken glass, wires rooted into her spine. Her eyes flickered open. "Welcome home," she said softly. Kale staggered. What are we?" The woman smiled. "The last failsafe, the memory seed. Every time humanity reached afar, every time the Concorde pushed us back, we woke up. We kept the flame burning." "I don't understand. You were activated early," the woman interrupted, triggered by desperation. "Their mistake was thinking we'd fade." Kale stepped closer. "Why me? Why keep bringing us back?" "Because they're terrified," she whispered, "of what happens when a species that remembers pain learns to grow from it." She held out her hand. A code fragment blinked in her palm. The Concord fractured time to erase us. But they couldn't erase all of us. Deep in Earth's mantle, our true backup still sleeps. If we awaken it, they'll know we're not anomalies. Cale took the fragment. What is it? The woman leaned forward. The last key. The one they never found. Because we didn't store it in data, we stored it in pain. Suddenly, alarms roared. Above them, the structure shook. Cale activated the pod's uplink. Concord ships had arrived. Too many, go, the woman said. You have the key. You're the final version. Don't waste it. Cale turned to run, then hesitated. What happens to you? The woman smiled. I wake up again, somewhere else, as someone else. Cale fled the tomb as her pod shot into space. Behind her, Luna exploded. Not from Concord fire, from inside. The station self-immolated, taking half the enemy fleet with it. Cale didn't look back. She set course for Earth, and as the temporal shell around the planet blinked for a millisecond, just enough to let her through, she whispered to herself. They tried to erase us, but this time we write our ending. Then Earth opened and swallowed her whole. Darkness. Cale tumbled through a vortex of fractured light and memory, as if time itself had been shredded and she was falling through its bleeding threads. Her body dissolved, then reassembled. Each moment felt like century-central. It stopped. She gasped. She was standing. Earth not scorched, not frost nor frozen or live. Trees swayed. Air flowed. Skyscrapers gleamed under golden sunlight. But something was wrong. The streets were empty, silent. No people, no birds, no sound. Just her and one voice. You finally made it. She turned. The cyber-eyed man stood beneath a cracked billboard. But he wasn't glitching now. He looked solid, real, tired. Cale raised her weapon. No tricks, no time, he said, stepping closer. This isn't Earth, not your Earth. This is what they call the last. Echo, a memory prison stitched from every version of humanity the Concord tried to erase. She lowered her gun slightly. You're saying this world, this is all memory? He nodded. Billions of minds, billions of deaths. They didn't just erase your people, they stored the erasure, hid it here, locked behind the temporal shell. You weren't meant to enter, but you did. Cale's head swam. She reached up, touching the crystal shard fused to her chest, the key the other her had given. It pulsed like a heartbeat. This unlocks something, doesn't it? Yes, the man said, the truth. But truth is dangerous, even to those who seek it. Buildings around them flickered. In flashes, she saw burning cities, extinction protocols, desperate transmissions, human children crying as Concord ships descended like gods, then gone, as if nothing had ever been. You asked why you survived, the man continued. Why the others died. Why the Concord feared you. It's not because you were strong, or smart, or different. Cale stared at him. Then why? He leaned in, whispered. Because you were designed to remember what they made the galaxy forget. He pointed to the skyline. One tower pulsed red. That's where they store the origin, the unedited file, the first contact, the real one. Cale ran through streets stuck in endless loops, wars frozen mid-blast, lovers caught forever in a final kiss, soldiers weeping over dying friends, all of them ghosts, echoes. The weight of loss thickened with every step. She reached the tower. It opened. No security, no guards. Just an elevator with one button, origin. She pressed it as the lift ascended. A vision filled her mind. Earth, 90 years before Concord contact. A signal intercepted by a rogue human probe. Not from deep space, but from inside Jupiter. A message, in a language no living species remembered. Not a greeting, a warning. Do not ascend. They will come. The probe transmitted it anyway, and the Concorde did. Come. In peace, in correction. They didn't discover humanity, they responded to it. Cale stumbled as the doors opened. The top floor was empty, except for a massive wall-sized display showing a single line of text. Origin code, Chimera OOK13. And beneath it, a blinking prompt, execute, rewrite. Cale hesitated. The key pulsed again. Memories flooded her. Her brother's scream, the lie of Concord peace, the ghost of her other selves. All the Cales who died trying. No, she whispered. Not rewrite. She typed, execute, remember. The system froze. Then reality shook. The world cracked like glass. Every erased memory, every purged world, every terminated human echoed back into the stream. Time buckled. The sky split. 1 billion forgotten. Cries screamed back into existence. The last echo erupted. Cale's body tore apart and reassembled 1,000 times as the shockwave pulsed outward from Earth. Through the system, through the galaxy, ships lost decades ago reappeared. Resistance fighters blinked back into existence. Mid-battle, mid-sentence, entire colonies, once erased from history, were suddenly back, confused, terrified, alive, and the Concorde. They panicked, because suddenly, all their lives were burning in the open. Cale stood in the remains of the tower, now half-shattered. She looked up. A Concorde warship hovered overhead, broadcasting a single urgent message. Surrender the prototype, or suffer systemic erasure. Cale laughed. Not cruelly, but freely. She tapped into the central node beneath her feet. Earth's old defenses, those buried deep within its crust, written off as archaic, now recognized her signal. Identity, Chimera K13 confirmed. Authority level, prime. A pulse fired. 1,000 dormant satellites awakened. One word echoed. Across every resurrected resistance ship, every hidden outpost, every child who woke up from a life they weren't meant to remember. Fight. Cale looked to the sky and whispered back, humanity remembers. Then Earth opened fire. The sky turned to fire. Cale stood on the shattered tower, hair whipped by hurricane winds as orbital strikes screamed past her. Concorde warships above Earth reeled from the sudden activation of ancient Terran weapons buried so deep. They'd become myth, dismissed as malfunctioning relics of a forgotten age. But they weren't relics. They were waiting for her. Fusion-laced beams arced from Earth's surface, carving through enemy hulls like paper. Dozens of Concorde ships disintegrated mid-turn. Those that remained scrambled to deploy shielding, but too late. Humanity's long-silenced vengeance had remembered how to bleed them. A voice crackled through her human, raspy, familiar. Cale. It's Commander Ral, if you can hear this weird back. All of us. I don't know how, but you pulled us from the void. We're yours to command. Cale's breath caught. Ral had been gone for years, executed on live Concorde feeds. And yet, his voice was real. Status, she said, eyes never leaving the war-torn sky. We're picking up old distress calls Alines once scrubbed. They're alive, mobilizing. They remember everything. the lies, the betrayals. Kale clenched her fist. The key fragment fused to her body began to glow warmer now, as if feeding off the rage that pulsed through her bones. She looked at the rising data floods across her. HUD, names, faces, ships, entire networks blinking online. Not just survivors, fighters. A flicker on the horizon made her pause. A singular Concorde vessel, larger than the others, emerged from the shadow of Mars. Not just any ship, pit pulsed with old-world code. Concorde Prime, a command carrier, a final. Executioner, Raoul's voice cracked again. That's the Apex vessel. We hit it. It resets everything. Whole system flash cores. No backups. Kale stared at the blinking red marker above the ship. Apex Protocol, active target, Chimera K-13. They're not coming to erase us, she said quietly. They're coming to undo us. Orders, Commander. Kale looked down. She was standing on the last intact node of Earth's primary. Uplinker transmission tower wired to every lost Terran. Satellites still hiding in deep orbit. She uploaded the Chimera core. Within seconds, Earth's orbit lit up with crimson pulses. New code spread across the network. Kale's voice echoed through. Every terminal, ship, and broken antenna once used to suppress humanity's truth. This is Kale. Chimera Protocol is no longer a failure. We are not forgotten. We are not ghosts. We are survivors. You remember who you were before they erased us. Now remember what it means to fight back. The Concorde Prime vessel opened. Fire. Kale dove as the tower exploded behind her. She landed hard. Bones jarring, suit cracked. Lungs heaving, dust but alive. Just in time to see Earth's sky ignite with retaliation. Every human satellite, every backup ship, every secret arsenal hidden beneath ocean floors and desert ruins, all activated. They didn't need Kale to command them. They only needed her to wake them up. But the Apex ship was still. Descending, Kale reached the buried launch pad beneath her. Only one ship remained. Prototype fighter with no no shielding, no backup, just speed. She climbed in. A whisper echoed in her mind as the cockpit sealed. You weren't built to win, you were built to endure. She launched. The gravity crushed her. She pushed harder, breaking past Earth's shell. She dodged debris, burning holes, falling stations. The Apex ship loomed ahead, impossibly large, like a god cast in metal. Inside, it carried something worse than weapons. It carried code, something designed to overwrite time itself. If it reached orbit, it wouldn't destroy Earth, it would rewrite history so none of this ever happened. Kale's engine screamed. She dove straight into its core. Plasma trails slicing through its shielding, past its hull. She reached the breach point. The main memory chamber. She detached a Chimera key from her chest, plugged it into the override slot, and waited. The Concorde AI spoke calm, cold, final, prototype identified. Authorization denied. Preparing extinction cycle. Kale whispered, "You still don't get it." She smiled. "This isn't about me surviving." She twisted the key. "This is about you remembering who we are." The override pulsed. The Apex ship halted mid-strike. Across the Concorde network, one phrase repeated: Origin override active. Then dash static. The ship exploded from the inside out. Kale's fighter was caught in the blast. Time fractured. She felt herself shatter again, not into death, but into something deeper. A memory without end. And just before everything went white, she heard her brother's voice. "Told you they couldn't erase us." then silence. Cold, then warmth, then breath. Kale's eyes opened. She wasn't dead, she was awake. But this wasn't the battlefield. No wreckage, no fire, no screaming comes. She stood barefoot in a white corridor, smooth walls glowing faintly. The air smelled like ozone and memory. Her suit was gone. So was the chimera key. But she felt it inside her now. Not hardware, identity. Welcome, a voice said. She turned. A woman stood across from her, featureless and familiar. Not the older version from Luna. Not a ghost from the last echo. This was Kale, but not. Who are you? She asked. I'm the original, the woman replied, gently. The first seed. The one who remembered before they forgot. Kale stared. Is this another simulation? The original Kale shook her head. This is the moment after. After you destroyed the apex. After time tried to collapse. After history stopped being a weapon and started being a mirror. The walls shimmered. Images pulsed in slow motion. Concord cities falling, then crumbling into human cities rising. Resistance cells forming across galaxies. Forgotten colonies rebuilding. Children playing under suns that had once been quarantined. You're not in one time anymore, the original continued. You're in all of them, a singularity of memory. Kale touched her chest. No heartbeat, but endless motion. So what? Now, she asked. The original Kale walked to a vast window. Outside, space stretched infinitely but broken. Splintered timelines drifted like shards of glass. Human echoes moved between them, versions of herself, of others, old and new. Some still fighting, some long dead, all connected. You broke the Concord's hold, the original said, but their empire didn't rely on weapons. It relied on forgetting. Now that's over. Kale stepped beside her. So we rebuild. No, the original replied. We. Worn, a pulse rippled across the stars. Thousands of timelines converged down from them. New signals burst outward. Messages not of surrender or vengeance, but remembrance. Old Terran languages, lost colonies, ruined Earth outposts. One message, over and over. We are what you erased. We are the fracture in your mirror. And we remember. Kale watched 1 billion. Sparks light up the dark. Ships rebooted. Beacons flared. And far away, so far even Concord sensors couldn't reach her. Signal returned. It wasn't human. But it replied in human tongue. We saw your extinction. Now we see your return. Kale's voice trembled. Who was that? The original Kale smiled faintly. The first ones. The ones who warned us before the Concorde. They've been watching. Waiting to see if we'd survive our own fear. And we did, Kale said. No, the original corrected. You did. The corridor darkened. A door opened beyond it. A bridge. A real ship. A real galaxy. Waiting, Kale stepped through. Alarms chimed softly, friendly this time. 12 humans turned to face her. Each one familiar in a way that made her chest ache. Survivors, chimera echoes, reclaimed ghosts. You're in command, said one. Kale took the helm. Looked at the map. Not just Earth, not just Sol, but every timeline that had once been stolen. We're not just fighting for our future anymore, she whispered. We're fighting for the right to exist in memory. She gave the order, and the ship leaped into the stars. Behind her, for the first time in 1,000 years, humanity followed, and this time they weren't running, they were coming back.